On this week's show, eBay finally makes some updates to their feedback policy. Whatnot is adding a reward program, and Depop has a new AI listing generator. What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to episode number 264 of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan, and I'm going to be your host as we wade through a little bit of reselling news. We got a couple of updates from eBay, including one people have been not so patiently waiting for since the spring seller check-in. So that's some big news. We got a couple of things, one from Depop, some stuff going on over at Etsy as well. So we got a little bit of stuff to talk about. And then, of course, at the back end of the show, I will have the What Sold recap. Only 9 things to cover this week, so not a huge week. It was pretty good in terms of the number of listings sold, but not anything super. Well, I take that back. There was one pretty spectacular sale, but just not a lot of them. So I will, of course, leave timestamps in the show notes and the video description down below if you want to go to one particular part of that. Before we get into the reselling news, though, I did want to remind everybody, if you didn't catch the Wednesday live or you're not following me on Instagram, I did post about this. Next Wednesday at 11 a.m. live here on the YouTube channel, I will be having a conversation with David Lee, the Vice President of Marketing for Mercari. He is making the rounds. He was with Becky Park a couple of weeks ago and did a session, and he has graciously allowed us to have a conversation here. So we'll be doing that Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. If you have questions that you would like for me to ask David, please submit them either in the comments to this video, or you can also reach out to me over on the post on Instagram as well, and I'll add them to the list. So far, I've had a few questions be submitted, but it's mostly all been stuff that I was already planning on covering. But if you've got something that you think is a unique question for David, let us know, and I will make sure to add it to the list. So put that on your calendar Wednesday at 11 a.m. If you're not one that normally goes to my live show on Wednesday for whatever reason, this is one you might want to check out. With that bit of housekeeping out of the way, let's get into this reselling news.
News updates.
So this has been coming since Spring Seller Update, and because they had talked about it repeatedly and had brought it back up over the summer, there were a lot of people that were a little skeptical that this was ever going to happen. But eBay has finally rolled out new feedback removal policy, which promises human review of requests. That's worthy of some applause. This has been a long time coming, and there are things in this list that we're going to go over that people have been clamoring for quite some time. So let's just get right into this. eBay has finally delivered on promises made in June at the summer seller check-in. My bad, I thought it was the spring. It just feels like it's been forever. With new feedback removal guidelines and assurances that removal requests will be manually reviewed by humans rather than AI. So there's still going to be an AI component to this, which we'll get into here in a little bit, but the initial run at kind of removing feedback that just doesn't follow their policy appears to still be automated. But then if you come back and ask for a removal, they're saying that that is actually going to get reviewed by a human. The commitment to create a more fair feedback experience for sellers and buyers came as part of EP Global Regulatory Trust and Monetization, Andrea Stair's presentation, where she acknowledged changes made earlier this year had gone too far, with automation often denying removal requests that should have qualified and sellers being given no option to appeal. You may remember we played on this show a clip of her presentation back in June. So the policy essentially is going to make mostly changes in things that are eligible to be reviewed and removed. So that's what we're going to kind of cover here. And I will link to this article and all of these articles today in the show notes and the video description below. So if you want to go read them in more detail, you can do that. How do we remove feedback? We use automation to proactively remove feedback that goes against our policy, but in cases that are not clear-cut, we carry out a manual review. You can request removal through seller help, at which point a team member will review it. Depending on the situation, we may remove the comment, ratings, and/or images. Note that they say and/or, so they may remove parts of it, it sounds like. I can't imagine why you wouldn't just remove the entire thing, but we'll see. We'll see how this thing goes as they roll it out. If your feedback, they say, qualifies for removal, you will be notified via email and the feedback will be removed from your account within 24 hours. If it cannot be removed, we will provide clarification as to how it doesn't violate our policy. Historically, they have just said that they cannot overrule a buyer's feelings or perceptions on a transaction, which is kind of a get out of jail free card. You could use that for just about anything. So it's going to be interesting to see. Some of these are pretty clear cut as we go through the list. It's a pretty extensive list of things that they're saying can be qualified for removal. So we'll see how that works. But historically, they've left themselves a lot of wiggle room there. The new policy says eBay will remove harmful, inappropriate, or irrelevant comments and images that contain any of, and I'm going to read this whole list, so we're going to be here a minute, but I think it's worth doing. Content promoting hatred, violence, or discrimination, profane, obscene, adult, illegal, or explicit content, opinions on any political, religious, or social issues, any implied or explicit threats or intimidation, personally identifiable information, links, URLs, or other content encouraging sales outside of eBay, infringement of third-party rights, meaningless content or images that aren't of the item purchased, comments intended for a different item or seller, negative comments with positive ratings, or positive comments with negative ratings. We've all had that, where a customer will leave what appears to be a good comment about whatever the transaction was, and then they'll leave a neutral or negative feedback. So this says they're going to fix those as well. And personal attacks that could harm the reputation of the seller or their business and could not reasonably be viewed as constructive criticism. So that's all well and good. A lot of that, I think, will probably be part of the automated process. So there's going to be a little bit of reliance still on the AI bots. But now at least you're going to have some recourse when you contact eBay for removal. These particular policies seem to be pretty clear. They also broke out several specific instances where feedback may be removed, along with examples of what types of comments may qualify for removal in each instance. This was an area when Andrea spoke at the check-in where people felt she was, I don't want to say purposely vague, but it was not that. She gave one specific example and they just kept coming back to that. And sellers really wanted to hear a lot more stuff. And I don't know if they just hadn't nailed these down at the time or she just wasn't prepared to talk about them. But now there is an incredibly lengthy list of things, which we are also going to cover in depth here. Extortion and manipulation. All feedback that is used as a means to extort another member or is used to manipulate feedback ratings, and then there's a link to the feedback manipulation policy. Buyer-related transaction issues. eBay will remove neutral or negative feedback when they can see that the buyer asked to cancel after placing their order, the order was canceled due to an issue with the buyer's address, the order was canceled because the buyer didn't pay. These feel like they should all be no-brainers, but clearly these things were not working in the way that the person with common sense might think they should. The buyer is raising an issue that was correctly disclosed in the listing. So you say that the item has a stain, and then they leave you negative feedback because the item has a stain. That is now something that will qualify for removal. The buyer has been actioned under the abusive buyer policy. The buyer requested a change to an order after they'd paid, and their feedback relates to this. Item delivery issues. Neutral and, again, negative feedback will be removed when the buyer is referencing a delivery issue where tracking shows that the delivery or handling time expectations were met. A delivery issue where a natural disaster or unexpected event caused a carrier delay. A customs or tax issue outside the seller's control that eBay could identify. Here's one that a lot of people have been clamoring for. On returns issues, eBay will remove neutral and negative feedback when any of the following occurred, and this is what the buyer is referencing. The item was returned, used, or damaged, and the seller deducted an amount from the refund. You are allowed to do that in many cases. You can make a deduction for items that are not returned in the condition at which they went out, and now you can request that feedback to be removed if you get bad feedback for that. The seller declined a change of mind return request as the listing didn't offer returns. This will be a big one as well. Although, to be fair, eBay probably 99 times out of 100 is going to side with the buyer and approve the return anyway. But in the odd instance where they don't, you'd now be protected. The buyer changed their mind and was liable for the cost of an eBay return label. The seller offers free returns and handled the return and issued a refund. So that's a big one. If you have free returns and you took care of the return and issued a refund, that's going to be able to be removed. Now, I know I believe it's Steve, Resell Dojo, has talked about buyers leaving feedback for items that they did not try to return. I don't know how they're going to handle that because that is a little bit different issue than what they're outlining here. So you in good faith offer free returns and the customer does not avail themselves of that and instead leaves you bad feedback on the item. That looks like something that's going to be left up to the discretion of the rep that you get because it is not explicitly spelled out here. eBay site or program issues, neutral negative feedback will be removed when the comment is about not being able to retract a bid. The problem was caused by a technical issue on the eBay site that eBay could identify. An eBay money-back guarantee case or payment dispute was closed with the seller having met their obligations to the buyer. The item was shipped on time with eBay International Shipping or the Global Shipping Program, and there was a shipping-related issue. The item was sold under the Authenticity Guarantee Program, was shipped on time and passed authentication, or the item was sold under the Guaranteed Fit Program. The buyer requested a return because the item didn't fit their vehicle, and eBay can see that the seller met all their obligations to the buyer. This last one is kind of interesting because this portion of the feedback protection was recently removed from the Guaranteed Fit section of the Seller Protections Policy page. So Liz here at Value Added Resource notes, it's good to see that it's now listed on the feedback policy page, but still odd that it was removed from the other policy page when references to feedback protection in other scenarios remain. And of course, it doesn't address the issues of service metric protections for Guaranteed Fit also being removed. So this is not a complete win just yet. There's still some areas here that could be problematic, but it is definitely a move in the right direction. Sellers will have 90 days to request feedback removal under the new guidelines, and it's highly encouraged to carefully read through the full policy, including the specific examples eBay provided. We just did that so you don't have to. To understand what eBay is looking for when determining what will qualify. Of course, many sellers, myself included, will be skeptical, as some less than honest buyers have historically used eBay's examples to learn how to phrase feedback in a way that may be damaging and or unfair to the seller while skirting the gray areas or being just vague enough to avoid a clear-cut case for removal. Hopefully, better judgment will prevail and the intent of the messages can be kind of parsed out so that these things get removed. That being said, she notes the initial reactions in the community have been positive and sellers seem hopeful this new policy will be an improvement over the previous automated process. You can let me know what you think of this and if you're excited to see new options for getting bad feedback removed. This is at least a good step in the right direction. It's been a long time coming. It's probably taken longer than it should, given that this was announced back in June, but all's well that ends well. Let me know if you have had any instances. She does point out a couple of cases here where people have already commented that things have been removed under this policy already. So that bodes well. This is an interesting one also. Liz pointed this out again on Value Added Resource. eBay Sellers Wanted, CWA, and the Responsible Online Commerce Coalition seek unfair practices, market dominance insights. The Responsible Online Commerce Coalition is looking to connect with eBay sellers willing to share their experiences on the platform in a new survey partnership with Communications Workers of America. ROC is building a broad coalition of businesses who rely on online platforms to reach their customers, aiming to ensure a level playing field on which e-commerce businesses can prosper with consumers easily able to find and buy the best genuine products for the best price. While their efforts, she notes, initially focused mainly on Amazon, ROC has recently taken on an active role in supporting its members who sell on eBay-owned collectible trading card marketplace TCG Player, helping them to submit a petition and public comments to the FTC and advocating for the company to stop anti-competitive practices, unfair seller suspensions, and charging excessive junk fees. We have talked on this show on several occasions about things going on with TCG Player. So I'm not going to rehash that whole thing, but this is a big, big brouhaha with both the FTC, the DOJ, looking into what's going on between eBay and TCG Player. So this is a group that has helped facilitate some of that communication. Now, ROC and CWA want to expand their outreach efforts to the wider eBay seller community, launching a new survey aimed at connecting with sellers and learning more about how they're treated on the platform. There is a link in this article, again, which will be linked in the show notes and the video description below if you want to take this survey. Similar to eBay's anti-competitive and unfair treatment of sellers, when workers at the TCG Player Authentication Center in Syracuse, New York, formed a union with the Communications Workers of America back in 2023, eBay launched an anti-union campaign aimed at stymieing the bargaining process. The NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, has found that eBay violated labor law by delaying bargaining, refusing to provide relevant information, withholding benefits to punish union workers, and unlawfully terminating workers, and more. Pretty healthy list. We've talked about this as well a couple of times in the past. Labor protections and market competition are not optional. eBay is not above the law and should not use its position in the market to abuse the people whose livelihoods depend on it. This new survey requests information about how much of a seller's business is done through eBay, if there are viable alternative platforms that offer comparable fees and user experience, or the market is dominated by eBay. Biggest concerns and complaints about selling on the marketplace and eBay's response to those concerns. Don't worry if you don't sell in one of eBay's main focus verticals like sneakers, handbags, trading cards, jewelry, or car parts. ROC and CWA still want to hear from you. Just select the other option if none of the rest apply. And then there's an image here of all of the things that they are asking about, whether you sell or not, but there is a section for other. So if I, as a bookseller, wanted to go on there and take the survey, which I may very well do this week, I can do that just by selecting others. So let me know if you're going to take that survey, and feel free to comment about what your experience has been with eBay. This one, I'm not sure really how I feel about this. I've got kind of mixed feelings on it. It's probably a little too short of a window, but this is over on e-commerce bites. eBay will now only retain seller videos for 30 days. The headline is slightly misleading. eBay will retain seller videos for only 30 days instead of the previous window of 365 days if they aren't associated with any active listings. That's the caveat. If you have a video that's posted and you have an active listing with that video attached, this does not apply to you. If your listing has expired for whatever reason, you've run out of stock, whatever the case may be, and you do not reactivate it within that 30-day window, that video will be deleted. Now, on the one hand, I totally understand that because videos are pretty huge. They take up a lot of storage space and a lot of bandwidth. So I get why they would want to remove them. However, 30 days seems a little bit short, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. That information was contained in last quarter's newsletter for developers, but it isn't clear eBay has ever informed sellers of the new policy. Basically, what it said was retention time of videos reduced to 30 days. Videos uploaded to a seller's account has been reduced from 365 days to 30 days. Retention time, again, only applies to videos that are not currently associated with any active listings. eBay, you may remember, began allowing some sellers to upload videos to their listings back in April of 2021, following in the footsteps of Etsy and other e-commerce platforms. The eBay help page on adding videos to listings offers some examples of acceptable video types, things like how-to videos, installation guides, and unboxing, but it doesn't mention there how long they will retain those videos with listings. The article concludes, you may be wise to keep copies of those videos once you've uploaded them. So save them on your hard drive. So when eBay deletes them from theirs, and then you get that item back in and you're ready to relist it, you've still got the video. Where this gets to be potentially problematic is eBay typically will allow up to about 90 days, and credit cards and PayPal will allow, if I'm not mistaken, up to 180 days for buyers to dispute the charge for whatever reason. And if that happens and your video, which was part of that listing, is no longer available, that may be your best defense in the case of someone petitioning for a chargeback. And eBay's only going to hold these videos now for 30 days. That may be something that they need to reevaluate. God knows they're not listening to my podcast, most likely. But if you are, 6 months, split the baby, as I always say, 6 months, 180 days instead of 365 days. I think most people would be happy with that. It would get you beyond the window of potential chargeback or other issues with credit card companies and PayPal. So there's probably some room there for tweaking that policy a little bit, but that's what's going on. I don't know what the percentage is of people who actually use videos. You can let me know in the comments if this is something that you've done or had issue with in the past. But just be aware, if you are using them and your listings are expired, those videos are going to go away a lot more quickly than you may have expected. Depop made a big announcement this week. They're launching an image-based AI listing to speed up consumer-to-consumer fashion sales. This is, as you may recall, Depop is owned by Etsy, and they've launched this AI-powered listing to use a single photo, speeding up circular economy selling on the platform. The company announced the new feature in a press release earlier this week, promising sellers will be able to create a listing description and populate item attributes, including category, color, subcategory, and brand, by uploading just one photo. If you are a Depop seller, try this out and let us know how it works. I am, if you're a longtime listener, you know I'm pretty skeptical about how this AI stuff is working. Let me know if you've tried it and what the results were. That is a pretty big step, because eBay's AI generator for just product descriptions based on a bunch of information that you put into the listing, not just a single photo, but things you actually tell the system that your item has, and it still generates a pretty suspect product description. So, and I understand eBay is not Depop. Maybe they got better programmers over at Depop, but color me a little skeptical on this. But if you're a user on Depop, try this thing out and let us know in the comments how it worked for you. The description generation feature has been designed to be authentic to the unique, colloquial tone of the Depop community, incorporating relevant hashtags and embodying the distinctive way inventory is described and represented by sellers on the marketplace. That is really interesting as well. So one of the big knocks, again, to go back to eBay, of the AI descriptions are that they're very obviously written by AI. They have a lot of fluff and kind of boilerplate language, and they don't read very human. This indicates that their product description generator is going to speak in the same type of language, the lingo, the colloquial tone of the Depop community. That, again, let us know if you are a user on Depop and you've been in the beta to try this. Let us know, did it work? Because that is a big, big leap. To use the feature, sellers can upload an image of an item using the selling button and hit generate description. They can then use, adjust, or remove the description as required. The feature is available to all users in English-speaking countries, including the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, and Ireland. Like many marketplaces and tech companies, Depop has been working to integrate AI into their user experience in a variety of ways, with predictive recommendations and pricing guidance for sellers and enhancements to search and algorithmic presentation, or rather personalization, for buyers. Chief Product and Technology Officer Ralph Colburn said, "We know that writing a description for an item in a blank text box can be a time-consuming part of listing for both new and regular Depop users. Adding intelligent, automated description provides inspiration to speed up and simplify the process, meaning our community can list more, sell more, and earn more, while contributing to a more circular fashion economy." This feature, he adds, has resonated well with our community in testing, with almost half of listers trying it out. Taken together, these wider enhancements to the selling process should make it easier and quicker than ever to give fashion items that already exist a second life. So everybody's in this AI game. Everybody's trying to make it work. Everybody's trying to differentiate themselves with it, but this really looks interesting from Depop. So again, if you are a seller over there, let us know if you've tried it and how it worked. Speaking of problems with AI, this is a little bit different, but we've talked about this in the past, going on over at Etsy, where their AI kind of security bots are taking down listings and suspending accounts just willy-nilly. And it's really gotten to the point where it appears to be out of control for a lot of sellers. Etsy sellers face creativity standards takedowns from stolen photos with no appeal process. Etsy sellers are increasingly receiving takedown notices of authentic handmade items for supposed creativity standards violations due to stolen images with no ability to appeal to have those listings reinstated. E-commerce consultant and Etsy seller Cindy Baldassi is bringing attention to the problem after working with other sellers who have been impacted and then experiencing a false violation takedown herself. With recent changes to the seller's ability to appeal automated listing removals, Etsy's AI bots are now almost uncontrolled. While the process has never been easy, many Etsy shop owners are now being told there is no way to have an actual human being check the validity of the computerized flags that took down their handmade goods. This is leading not only to the loss of popular listings for some of Etsy's longtime sellers, but also to shop suspensions. So interestingly, eBay, in the article we were just referencing, is adding in, or at least opening up more opportunity for actual humans to review things that the AI may have missed in terms of feedback. But here at Etsy, you have the exact opposite situation where they are pretty much eliminating humans being able to go in and look at these things, which I, again, with my skepticism on AI, I think is a real potential problem. Baldassi's LinkedIn post goes on to explain that in 2023, Etsy unleashed what many sellers call the AliExpress bot, an automated system that is designed to detect images being used on Etsy that also appear on sites like AliExpress, Temu, etc., in an effort to be able to say they are taking action against drop shippers and resellers who violate policies by listing mass-produced items. Unfortunately, and this is where the problem is coming in, Etsy does not seem to have accounted for the fact that a legitimate handmade seller may have some of their images stolen and used by sellers listing on other sites, leading to a lot of undeserved takedowns and collateral damage along the way. After some very large sellers who were incorrectly taken down gained some media attention, Etsy has felt the pressure to reassure investors that they have the situation under control, with CEO Josh Silverman confirming sellers could appeal the process during the Q1 2024 earnings call. He said, quote, "You as a seller can appeal that. You can tell us how you made it yourself, and it ended up on AliExpress. And by the way, that's true sometimes." He sounds skeptical. You can appeal that, but our default now is that we take that down. But that's not how it's working, according to Baldassi and others who have been denied the possibility to appeal over the last few months. She says sellers are now usually told the following when they contact support. One, they can't appeal. Frequently, this is the only response despite talking to multiple Etsy support staff. Some sellers just give up at that point. More rarely, support says that the problem has been escalated to the correct team, which is trust and safety, but the shop owner never gets a response, even after months. This often happens, they note, after the merchant posts in the Etsy seller forum and a moderator closes the thread with promise of an escalation. That used to be one of the best ways to resolve an incorrect handmade deactivation, but is now very hit or miss, even for longtime sellers. Occasionally, sellers are advised to just take new photos of the product and make a new listing for it, which means that Etsy staff are acknowledging that there's nothing wrong with the actual item for sale. The only problem is the photo. Again, a case where Temu or AliExpress has found an item on Etsy that is popular and is selling well and has created their own mass-produced version of that and has lifted the photo from the original Etsy listing and used it then in their listing. So this is a real problem, and you would think that there's metadata in the photos. You would think they would be able to parse that out, but apparently that's not the case. When sellers follow these instructions, of course, shoppers lose the benefit of the many reviews on the established but deactivated listing, and shop owners lose the benefit of search and other algorithm rankings that a strong selling listing has, because what they're asking you to do is create a new listing, not edit the deactivated one. Recently, they add support is directly telling some people that their items may have been removed due to the photos being found elsewhere and may even link to the stolen image on AliExpress and so on. In at least a few cases, the other photo is not even the same and may not even show an identical product. It may be a hair bow made of completely different fabric or earrings made with the same charms, but not the same hooks. And still, no, they cannot appeal. So Etsy continues to have some problems with this. I'm just a guy in my basement. I'm not sure what the answer to this is. More human intervention would certainly be helpful. allowing people to be able to prove their case with Etsy would certainly be helpful. And maybe either turning off the bots for a while until they get it under control, or maybe permanently. I don't know, but it's a real problem over at Etsy. Let me know down in the comments below if you have been affected by this. Last bit of news. This is an interesting one. Whatnot continues to kind of reinvent reselling. There's some people that are just absolutely killing it over on Whatnot, and they are now launching a rewards club, which will give sellers loyalty program levers to drive sales. Sellers on the live stream shopping platform Whatnot now have new ways to reward watchers and buyers with a new rewards club feature, putting loyalty program levers in their hands to drive more sales. This new feature was announced in a company blog this week after beta testing with a select group of users earlier in the year. Buyers returned to Whatnot, they said, because of the unique combination of entertainment and products that you provide. But what really builds that sense of community is when you can recognize and engage with buyers from one show to the next. Those moments when a buyer is welcomed back or receives a personalized note make the experience special, but they also require extra effort on your part. And you do plenty of work already. This summer, we introduced Rewards Club in beta, an achievement-based loyalty program to automatically recognize and reward your most active customers with custom perks you set, like coupons and access to exclusive shows. Today, we're excited to share that Rewards Club is now live. This always-on, easy-to-enter program tracks buyer interactions and delivers fun rewards and status for shoppers, boosting engagement, retaining buyers, and driving more sales to your business on Whatnot. The program refreshes every 3 months, winter, spring, summer, and fall, encouraging buyers to stay engaged and allowing you to refine, expand, and improve your program. This provides a fresh marketing platform to create exciting seasonal incentives and spark new excitement throughout the year. Here's how it works. They say there are 5 tiers for all, from bronze to diamond. The multi-tier program allows you to create incentives for every type of buyer, from longtime watchers to casual supporters and engaged repeat customers. You can set your own member achievements. Take control by setting custom achievements to unlock tiers, such as the number of purchases, total spending, or the frequency of their views. You can also create custom rewards. Tailor the rewards buyers unlock at each tier, whether it's a dollar amount off, a percentage discount, or something else that fits your business strategy. You can also recognize your best buyers. Beyond the rewards, Whatnot has added badges and celebrations for buyers as they unlock new tiers, making it easier for you to acknowledge and engage with your top customers. And you can also run exclusive shows. Tier-only shows are now available for you and your members. This allows you to create exclusive shows for specific tiers, offering your most loyal buyers unique experiences and rewards. This is a really cool program. I know a few of you who watch and or listen sell on Whatnot. Let me know what you think of this. I'm not over there, but this is really interesting. Sellers can set the specific requirements for buyers to reach certain achievements, building on a framework of 3 different options that are available. The number of shows watched. When a buyer watches a participating seller's live show for at least 10 consecutive minutes, they'll receive credit for 1 show watched. This achievement is available only for unlocking bronze. Number of purchases. Buyers receive credit for each product purchased from a participating seller. If a buyer purchases multiple products in a single show or transaction, they'll receive credit for each product purchased. Amount spent. Credit is awarded when a buyer spends a set amount of money on the participating seller's products. The total amount is tabulated from the combined subtotals of all purchases a buyer completes with that seller, so extra costs like taxes, shipping, and credit card fees will not count towards the achievement. If discounts like coupons are used on a purchase, only the subtotal after the discount is applied will count toward the achievement. There are, of course, requirements. As a seller, to be able to qualify to use this, you have to have completed 50 or more orders. That excludes giveaways. You've earned more than $1,000 in lifetime revenue from your sales. You've been on Whatnot for 30 days or longer. Your seller rating is 4.7 or higher, and you're not currently on a second offense in any violation category as outlined in their guidelines. There is a link in this article to the full Rewards Club help page. They note that during the beta testing process, Whatnot worked to fine-tune the program, gaining important insights from 160 sellers in the test. That's interesting. A lot of times they don't tell you. They just say they beta tested it. They don't tell you how many sellers or what they did. They just kind of tout the results. Here it is in black and white. They rolled this out and tested it with 160 sellers. Buyers, they said, spent 12% more. Sellers saw a 12% increase in hourly sales after using Rewards Club. The number of repeat buyers with 2 or more purchases from individual Rewards Club sellers rose by nearly 20%. Chat engagement during Rewards Club shows increased by 11% per hour. Plus, they add Whatnot already has future enhancements on the roadmap for Rewards Club with custom program branding, personalized rewards, and detailed data insights, quote, coming soon. So if you are a seller on Whatnot, this is a really, really cool program that is rolling out apparently this week. So let me know if you've tried it, what you think of it. Sounds really, really interesting. So again, as I said at the intro to that, Whatnot just continues to kind of reinvent what you can do with reselling, which will be one of the things I want to talk with David Lee at Mercari about on Wednesday. Shameless plug. Remember, we're going to be talking to David on Wednesday. With that, let's do some What Sold. So like I said, I think I've only got 9 things here today, so not a ton of stuff, but a few really interesting ones and a pretty big one kind of at the end. So this first one, a color notation by A.H. Munsell. This is a 12th edition illustrated hardcover that included a hue, value, and chroma chart. This particular version was published in 1971. I think the original version of this book was published back in the 1940s, but it's a really interesting book all about color, as you can imagine. This was sold on eBay for $22.99 plus shipping. I paid $4.12 in the regular fees, $1.93 for a promoted listing fee. My cost of goods sold was $0. This was part of the free estate book pickup I did, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago now. So 0 cost of goods sold. Order total $29.14. My total cost $12.20. Net profit $16.94. Get rich slow, they say. Another sale over on eBay, The Book of American Trademarks, Volume 2 by David E. Carter. This was a hardcover from 1973. If you're watching on YouTube, the picture of this book in the listing actually looks pretty good from a distance, but it was a little rough along the edges, not really in great condition. I picked this up with Volume 1 at an estate sale for a couple of bucks back during the winter. Interesting book, just full of images of trademarks. Sold this for $24.99 plus shipping. The order total was $32.42. I paid $4.76 in fees and $2.27 in promoted fees. Again, that cost of goods sold $2, so my total cost $16.46, which led to a net profit of $15.96. Another cool book from a big estate pickup I did, Hot News by Emile Gavreau from 1931, a first edition hardcover published by the Macaulay Company. This is a novel from the 1930s. Cover was pretty worn, pages were pretty tan, but it's a fairly unique item, a little difficult to find. I had it listed for $27.99, which is what it sold for over on eBay. The total with shipping, no tax, wherever this person lives, $32.62. I paid $4.79. This did not sell through the promoted listings program, so no fees there. 54 cents cost of goods sold as part of a big bulk buy. My total cost $9.96, so $22.66 net profit. First sale over on Etsy. I talked about the library sale that I went to a couple of weeks ago, and the guy who was talking about eBay sellers telling them that he was missing books as a scanner all the time. This is one of the ones that he missed. It was literally on the shelf right in front of him as he was telling me this. I had one book in my hand that he had already missed. I watched him go by this one. I looked at it because it just looked odd enough, something I had not seen before, and sure enough, it was worth some money. Baseball's Great Tragedy, the story of Carl Mays by Bob McCargill, a 1972 first edition illustrated hardcover in its dust jacket. Really interesting book about a pitcher in the past whose only notoriety was because a pitch he threw killed a batter. Really interesting piece. Picked this up at that library sale for 50 cents. It was listed on Etsy for $39.99. I'm running everything on sale over there this month, so it was $35.99 plus shipping. The order total, $44.47. $4.27 in fees to Etsy, $5.38 to ship it. Again, that 50-cent cost of goods sold. So my total cost $13.25, $31.22 net profit. Baseball's great tragedy. Be on the lookout for that one. Back over to eBay. This is also from that library sale, although I did pay up a little bit for this one. Not a ton. I talked about in last week's show that I was primarily over in the vintage book building, but I did go back over to the main building just to have a look around. And I did pick up a few things. I think almost all of them are going to be in this actual recap. But there were a couple individual books that they had priced individually that weren't just kind of the 50-cent variety. This is one of those. Holbein's Dance of Death and Bible Woodcuts. This was a limited edition printing from 1947 that was put out by the Sylvan Press. Really cool book of these old like woodcut art prints in reasonably good shape given its age. A little bit of wear on the cover, a little bit of tanning on the pages, but overall pretty nice. I had it listed for $69.99. It got a watcher. I sent out an offer and sold this thing for $59.49 plus shipping. The order total came to $71.62. I paid $10.04 to eBay in fees, $5.38 to ship. I did pay $2.50 for this book. This is, again, one of the ones they had written a price on the inside front cover, so $2.50 cost of goods sold. My total cost, $24.67. Net profit, $46.95. Here's some more of those books that were in that same building. So there was a box of, I think it was 21 books by Alistair MacLean. I think the series may have been 24 or 25 books. So this was not a complete set. It was 21 books in a box. They had it marked $15. I looked them up individually, and it looked like you could probably get $8, $10, $12 a pop for these. At that price, they were going to be well less than $1 a piece. So I went ahead and just took the whole box, and I had one buyer that ultimately bought 6 of these books. I essentially had them broken down into 2 categories. Some of them were in fantastic shape. Those were all listed for $12.99. Some of them, these were leather hardcovers, and some of them the leather had begun to split on the hinge where the front cover connected to the spine. Those I priced at $8.99. This guy bought some of both of those. His order total came to $61.94 plus shipping. He paid $8.98 in shipping. The order total, $74.64. I paid $12.20 in fees plus a $2.95 promoted listing fee. Shipping was $8.38. Cost of goods sold net on all 6 of these added up to $4.28. So my total costs were $31.53, leaving me with a net profit of $43.11. Another sale on eBay. This was from the library sale as well. Great Themes of the Bible by Louis Albert Banks from 1911. This was published by the Methodist Book Concern up in Columbus, Ohio. I find these books, we're not that far from Columbus. This was in the Lima area, so right down 70 roughly. I get a lot of these books from this Methodist Book Concern, and they can be pretty decent. Again, from the library sale, 50 cents in this thing. It sold for $69.99. I could not find any comps on this. You can find new versions of this book, but I couldn't find anything really old. Even in product research, I checked on Abe Books. I just couldn't find anything. I priced this at $69.99. It sold within 24 hours, which leads me to believe I may have aimed a little low on this, but nonetheless, $69.99 plus shipping gave an order total of $79.89. I paid $11.15 in fees to eBay, $6.09 to ship this. I did ship this with insurance. Is that right? Yeah, I did ship this with insurance for some reason. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, cost of goods sold was 50 cents. Total cost $22.26. Net profit $57.63. Another religious book. This was from a estate buyout that I did probably back in January with a bunch of Seventh-day Adventist stuff. This was a comb bound. We talked about in the episode I did about book terminology. the kind of plastic comb binding that you see a lot of times on like the local area cookbooks and that sort of thing. This was a 8.5 by 11 book with comb binding, Daniel and the Revelation by Ellen G. White. This particular compilation was prepared by a guy named Walter T. Ray. This was a manuscript published for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, paperback, some staining on the cover, but a really unusual reworking of her original work. This thing sold for $99.99 plus shipping. The order total was $111.70. I paid $15.43 in fees, $7.82 promoted listings fees, $6.10 in shipping, and a $2 cost of goods sold. My total cost $37.68, giving me an order total of $74.02 net profit. And here's your flip of the week, and this one surprised the heck out of me. So this is a strange one. This is from 1911, That Printer of Udell's by Harold Bell Wright. This one was published by the A.L. Burt Company. It's an illustrated hardcover. It is not the original publication of this book. There are earlier ones from the late 1800s, but all of them right now are selling for crazy money. So if you go back and you look in product research, you'll see a lot of these that have sold over the last couple of years for $12, $15, $18. Nothing super spectacular until you get to like the last 4 months or so. And for some reason, this book has just gone crazy. Sold comps anywhere from the mid 100s up to just over $300. Given the wide range of these, I put this up at an auction, and I started it at $59.99, and within 3 days, it had reached its final selling price of $255 plus shipping. Customer paid sales tax and shipping. The order total was $283.03. I paid $38.48 in fees. I did not have this promoted because I generally don't do that with my auctions. Shipping cost was $7.78. Again, I did pay to send this out Ground Advantage and to add insurance. I bought this at an estate sale. There were a bunch of old books. I'm just now getting to those tubs because they've been buried under other stuff. So this just got listed last week. I bought, I think it was 37 books for $100. So this worked out to about $2.70 cost of goods sold. My total cost $71.61. Leaving me with a net profit of $211.42, which is a very, very nice way to end the week. I will take that all the time. Let me know. There are a couple of listings for that book that mention that Ronald Reagan apparently quoted something from the book. If you're familiar with that at all, you can let me know down in the comments. I'm not familiar with the story or what would suddenly have caused this book to jump in value from $15 to mid 200s in the span of just a couple of months. But man, oh man, if you see one of these, even in pretty suspect condition, it can be worth quite a bit of money. So that, my friends, is going to put a wrap on this week's episode. Remember, last shameless plug, Wednesday, 11 a.m. live here on this channel. There is already a link up on YouTube for this. I will be sitting down with David Lee, the Vice President of Marketing for Mercari. Really looking forward to that conversation. I will try to keep an eye on the chat on that one. If you're there live and you have questions, you can feel free to leave them there. And if we have time, I'll try to get to as many of those as I can. As always, if you got something out of this, if you could do me a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening to the podcast, you could leave us a review. That would be great as well. If you're not currently a follower of the podcast or a subscriber to the YouTube channel, I would appreciate that as well. Come join the Galaxian family. Hopefully you did get something out of this. Hopefully you're all having a great week. As always, thank you all so much for spending a little bit of time here with me on this. I'm recording this on Saturday, but you'll be listening to it probably on Monday morning. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope to see you all on Wednesday. And now it's time to sell. Thanks, guys. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.